Maximize your spring colony growth, evaluation and equalization tips. I'm going to go through 6 colonies, evaluate and equalize, as well as showing you tips for equalizing brood frames and deciding if a small colony is even worth equalizing into. Giving small colonies awesome big frames of brood like this will help them grow exponentially faster and stop destructive swarming in your large colonies. This first colony really surprised me, and the last 2 also had some unfortunate circumstances. All right, well, there is a queen. I don't know what happened here. All of these bees just died. I noticed it the last time I was in this hive too. But there is a queen. There are eggs and larvae too. Yeah, that's a weird one. I'm gonna brush off the dead bees and see what I can do to help them. So just let me know what you think in the comments here. I've never seen anything like this. Just a ton of dead bees and then the cluster's still alive. So I think I can save them. We'll see. But just super, super weird. I'll come back in a couple weeks and see if they're still alive. They look to be alive, just obviously not strong at all. Okay, I need to go through these nukes, make sure that they have food, that they're queen right, and add some brood to them if I have some extra brood on other hives. I would guess they're queen right because they ate some of their pollen patty, and they certainly are queen right. Something pretty interesting about this frame is that it's got 2 eggs in some of the cells, even though there's obviously a laying queen. So that's not very normal. Normally you'd only see that on laying workers. But this hive, for whatever reason, this queen's laying multiple eggs, only in a couple of the cells. No brood here, just a little bit of pollen. It's kind of like a green and a yellow pollen mixed together. And we got their little brood nest right here. So they're alive and kicking, and that's all that's important. They don't have much food directly next to the cluster, so I'm going to go in and move the honey frames around so it's right next to the brood. So there's some honey, a little bit of pollen. I think I'll leave this frame here because this has the brood. Got the brood here. I almost want to flip this frame because there's some honey over here, but I think there's a little bit more on this side. So I'll leave it here and then pull some of the honey over. This frame's empty. So we got a frame over of honey on the left outside of the hive. And we got this frame. Really light sugar syrup that's kind of a little fermenty, not good. Same thing, not ideal. So this is my 3rd small colony in this yard. So I went to all the small ones first because I want to equalize into them, so I want to make sure they're queen right and not problematic first. One seems, I would guess, is going to be the biggest and least problematic. We got a bunch of larvae. Eggs. Wow, she is really pushing the brood nest. She's laying all the way down to here. Thought there was a bee in my veil, but yeah, she's really pushing the brood nest really far down in the frame, even though it's not a massive hive. So I better not keep them out too long because they're gonna need everything they can get. More brood. And nothing on this side. Prime candidate for adding brood to because they have all the right ingredients, they just don't have enough brood. There's a queen, some food, pollen, or a foraging force. Everything's there except except some more brood. So I'll definitely equalize into this hive if there's any extra. And I'm going to move this frame of honey right next to the brood nest. So this colony has a bunch of nectar, but this is definitely one of my largest colonies. You know, pretty much most of the box, but no eggs yet. Well, there we are. Here's the queen. She's got eggs in this frame on both sides with tons of pollen. Beautiful capped brood. Awesome stuff. Tons of funny fuzzy bees all over here that have just hatched. So that's already almost 2 frames of brood because the first one wasn't full of brood. Tons of larvae, eggs, and capped brood. This is one of the only hives that ate like their entire pollen patty. Holy smokes. Look at that brood. Plenty of drone brood, but that's because this frame is, you know, full of drone brood. This frame has eggs and pollen all over it. I guess that's the end of the brood nest. They're very far ahead of everyone else. Look how much nectar they've brought in. And I mean pollen too, but also plenty of nectar. So this frame, or this hive, needs to have brood taken away from it. They're too darn big. They just are. So I'm going to take one of these frames and give it to the colony right next to them. Really, none of these frames are that good for this job because they don't have that much capped brood. None of the frames are fully capped brood. So not ideal for sure, but you know, you kind of have to deal with what you got. Here's our queen. I'm going to set her in a box to the side just to be safe. None of these frames are really that good for equalizing, but you know, you just got to take what you can get. So I'm going to take this frame as capped as it really gets and then shake a bunch more bees in. I added a frame with capped brood. Now I'm going to shake some bees from a frame of larvae. Ideally, I'd be pulling out emerging brood because it heats itself almost instantly. But I don't have any of that, so I'm just making do with what I got. So I'm going to shake some extra bees to be safe. Gave the hive another pollen patty, and I'm about to close both of them up. So that hive's boosted. This one's pulled back and gave them more patty to keep growing. Well, what do you know? Here's the queen. We got capped brood here in the middle, pollen, and this side is full of eggs right here. And this, she has a terrific pattern. I mean, this side isn't as good, but look at that. That's awesome. The frame is, you know, completely full of brood top to bottom. Well, there's a little bit of pollen at the bottom, but that's like 3 whole frames of brood already. She just keeps going. Look at that. Larva, capped brood, eggs. Another frame. Then they still have enough food for a whole nother winter. Queen, so I know where she is. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 frames of brood. So I'm gonna skim one off. All right, so I just noticed something. This hive has Chalkbrood. You're not gonna be able to see it on camera because the lighting's crappy, but so I don't really want to equalize and give Chalkbrood to another hive, so I'm just gonna close them up. They had some last year and it still didn't clear up, so pretty much at this point, the only thing to do is pinch the queen. There's something with this hive. They're susceptible to Chalkbrood, so it is what it is. Oh, nice. Another mouse nest. Super cool. Probably still a mouse in here. Sorry about that, girls. Got some honey Terrific pollen. Look at that pollen. Wow. I'll clean off their bottom board here in a minute. Wow. Just wow. Ooh. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Laying up an absolute storm. And there she is. Full of brood, pollen, and larvae. More eggs, capped brood, and pollen. This hive is loaded with honey and pollen.
Now that you've seen how I evaluate and equalize in spring, you probably want to see how I encourage growth over the entire year. This year I'm going from 17 to 40 colonies, so check this video out.